Well, I would say it's actually going to be even longer than next 1-2 years. India is it's a great thing. We have lots of new consumers coming in, people who have never consumed before. This is like a clean sheet of paper. I think for the industry, it's a great opportunity. You can draw whatever you want to draw, kind of thing. You can convince the people about quality, you can convince the people about experience, you can educate the people about assortment, what they need, how they need to consume. So I think there is no preconceived brand loyalties, there's no conceived shopping habits, there's lots of information, there's lots of money, hopefully. So I think from an industry perspective, it's great. Every year I'm getting lots of people who are very eager to be pleased, and I'm one of the options which can please them and service them. I think it's a great potential. Hopefully we can get a house in order and capture this potential. Otherwise, it will pass us by, kind of thing. So
clearly, about more than 10 million people enter the workforce every year. The dependency ratios in this country are lower and lower. This has two big implications. One, if you look at our agenda to grow employability for retail as a sector, we have a huge advantage in terms of being able to provide employment and employability to a fresh and newer set of people. The second big implication of this is that we would see more youthful and more aspirational class emerging all the time. Any brand or any format which addresses these needs will have a tremendous competitive advantage.
I think, first of all, the potential is large, very, very large. And I think we've just barely scratched the surface of it. 6%, 8%, ask different people have different numbers. The thing is, there is 93, 94% still out there. The one is, and it's not going to go away in 1 year or 2 years or 3 years. So, I think there's lots of potential for even people who come a little later. You can still come in, and there's lots of places to do business models, markets, consumers to address. So that's one kind of thing. I think the other thing is I think going back to one of the things I said earlier is people want certainty. You don't build a store or a supply chain or warehouses for 1 year. You build it for 20 years. So people want some certainty that if they build something, for 20 years, nobody's going to touch it. It will be allowed. I think till we give that stability from a policy environment, nobody's going to put their money. Would you build a house on a plot knowing that next year somebody will come and take it away for a road? You would never do that. Why would we expect a company to do that? So yeah, there is need for investment. The industry needs investment. The country needs investment. Local players are going to make investment, but the investment gap is huge. So we need funds. Now, if some of the funds are going to come from outside of India, that's very, very welcome. And I think we should be welcoming them much more. The country needs it. You and I as consumers will benefit. Our traders will benefit. Our farmers will benefit. The country will benefit. So we should be welcoming those funds.
Well, there certainly will be some last-minute rush of new policies that will get announced, or modifications in existing policy, which will hopefully bring in a few more multi-brand retailers than what we've had so far. But the point is that to see the translation of those policy changes into investment on the ground, that can take a long time. So even if they took a decision today to considerably simplify the multi-brand FDI policy, before the first international retailer comes in and puts up investment, it will not less than 18 to 24 months. So none of that is going to happen in a hurry.
Well, earlier I shared my presentation as part of the keynote address. One of the things we said is, even if you look at other markets, you look at Indonesia, you look at South Africa, you look at China, the leading retailers are not global retailers. All of them are local retailers. So, having a successful business somewhere does not entitle you to win in India. And so that's it. So next 10 years, will there be a Walmart, Carrefour or Tesco? Yeah, they could be one or two of those top 5. I think the others will be home players. So there are definitely advantages they bring. They know the process, they have technology, they know other markets. But there is the magic sauce kind of thing, which is different. It's different for India. The magic sauce is different for Indonesia. I think this is where the local retailers have that. They can understand the business better, they understand the consumers better, and they can craft. So that's it. Will foreign retailers not succeed? That's not going to be there. But will they take the top 5 things? I don't think that's going to happen.
We, as formats, have been looking at a metric of revenue per square feet. I think now it is shifting to revenue per rupee of investment made. So if you look at it from that perspective, and from the perspective that while there was a big growth that has happened in retail initially, we've all realized that there are many Indias, and therefore there has to be a different strategy for different markets, as well as as you move down from a big mega to tier 1 to tier 2. Therefore, this is going to be about right sizing rather than being about the formats actually increasing or decreasing. Big cities where there is already huge investments, number of stores are already there, penetration levels are high, but the rentals are shooting up. The trend could be smaller size stores. Possibly. However, that is not the generic trend. We continue to build brand building stores as an overall strategy. We will continue to build large formats because we see enormous potential as we grow along the pyramid. It's about making prudent business decisions. So it's about it's a revenue to rental correlation which plays a role. So if you go to the top 30 or top 40 cities of the tier 2, this could be the pattern. If you go to further down, you could see a different pattern because the revenues also grow at a certain lower pace. So again, to summarize, this is about doing the right sizes at different geographies and different sets of cities.
I think it was around 1995-96 when these big American brands landed in India. What I believe has happened since 1995-96 till now, 17, 18 years have passed. I think a generation and a half has passed of people who have understood or who have kind of imbibed this fast food, quick service, food service concept, in their psyche. I think for them, they are that much more open to experimentation. They are that much more open to kind of create or almost demand their own concepts and so on. Unlike what has happened 17, 18 years back is that these fast food, quick service restaurants almost were islands of make-believe, half an hour, 45 minutes where you could go, and indulge in something, where the permission earlier to a normal Indian, if you see, entertainment was going to a movie, but eating out was an issue. But this was an air-conditioned environment where you could go eat out or get delivered at home. I think this generation now, which is sitting in their 25s, 30s now in that age range, I think is ready to explore. When we often talk about, the youth of the country, 50% population less than 25, 65% less than 35, this is that group of people. Now what they are demanding, and one big shift, if I may say here, is what they are seeing is that there is the fast food, which is very, very functional. They are saying that we want it to be a fast food plus place, which also offers, which is fast, no doubt, but could be, a bit slower, but which is offering us a lot of other things that are for us, the youth, which means my private space, my recognition, a bit of recognition there, and not one mechanical factory-like approach which typically some of these fast food companies take. To me, that is one big change that is happening. And it is going to drive the way in which stores are going to be crafted, the positioning of the stores, the menu mix, the pricing probably may not be as reflective, but all the other elements of how a store runs, operates, is crafted, will emanate from what this thinking is.
See, I think we've gone through 2-3 different metamorphoses from the time the retail mall culture started in India. First it was the developer driving the business. He kept asking, demanding rentals. Retailers just paid. They just bought into the story without even researching the story too well. But I think over the years, retailers today are driving the business. Some of the retailers are successful. They are people who you need in the mall to drive traffic. But I think eventually what I would see was if a retailer developer is able to create a partnership which he sees the life cycle of a mall, which is 7 to 10 years for a developer, if he's willing to partner in with the revenue and with enhancing his growth and enhancing the developer's growth, I think that's where we see the partnership model going to work. I don't see this developer being on his own track and the retailer being on his own track, and both are not looking at creating wealth for each other. I think a partnership model is something which I would personally feel would in the long run really pay a lot of dividends for both the developer as well as the retailer.
Yes, see, in the revenue share, one shouldn't, at least I as the head of development will never want that the revenue share just should be for me to earn profits. Now, if my responsibility goes higher in the scenarios where we are invested in a revenue share model, because then the pressure on me is there to perform well, so that I perform better, my top line is healthier, so that the developer also gets its pie of share from me. And to do that, we would always ensure that the property which is developed, the design factor is the best, so that it should have a recall value for the customers. So people keep coming in every now and then they get used to a PVR culture by giving them the best standard services, best technology, best interior designs. All those factors then combined will give a better top line to the PVR. If my top line is better, we'll always ensure that the revenue share to the developer is always higher. So that's the mantra why we would always want the developer also to earn monies, because we have to encourage them to get higher revenues because they had a faith on the brand. Now, if they had faith on the brand, I should be fulfilling that faith of his. So I should not ditch him on that ground.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think people should stay in their core business. And yes, everybody feels that development is easy, but development has its own risks. You've seen it in the past. A lot of retailers have tried becoming developers, but have not been very successful. I think development in India is a very, very tough business. And, there are people who have been successful at it. And I think you should let them drive the development part and let the retailer drive the retailer piece. That's my personal opinion.